I the a-hole for leaving the dry wedding early to go out? Reddit says you're the a-hole. Hi, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Jamie Wolfer. I'm your online wedding planner. And in most videos, I'm here to help you plan easy and stress less. So if you're in the throes of wedding planning, jump on down there, hit subscribe, because I give out budget wedding advice on the weekly to help you plan your wedding as successfully as possible, because you deserve a stress-free wedding day. So definitely jump down there, hit subscribe, and then occasionally I do AITA readings. Because as a wedding professional who's been in the industry for close to 10 years, I have some thoughts and feelings in some of these. And sometimes it's a lovely little reprieve to hear a story about someone else's experience at a wedding to make you feel better about your planning experience. And for the rest of you who are just here for the AITAs, thanks for stopping by. You should still subscribe, because I do plenty of these. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. Am I the a-hole for leaving the dry wedding early to go out? Also, the title technically says, am I the a-hole for leaving the dry wedding early to go out? My guess is someone typed this up and posted it after leaving the wedding early and hitting a couple of bars. Wedding early to go out. So 2 weeks ago, I, 35-year-old female, went to a wedding in our college town for a member of our college friend group. I love when people post their age and stuff like this, because you're just like, what? I guess that gives context, okay? My husband and I left the kids with their parents, and we went. We got a VRBO with another couple I went to college with for a few days. My husband and I don't have a ton of time to ourselves away from the kids, so we were excited to let loose. You wanted to get schmammered. Let's be real. I already saw the title. I know what's happening here. On the invitation, it said the wedding went till 11 with an after party with the bride and groom at the venue. The venue was a gorgeous mansion, and the bride and groom had it for the night. They were leaving for the honeymoon the next morning. Cut to the wedding day, and it's a dry wedding. Apparently, the groom is 2 years sober. Congratulations, sir. No one told us this, and we were admittedly bummed. When we found out there was no alcohol, we told people we were going to some bars after and not going to the after party. We left the wedding at 9:30 because we were itching to go out, and the wedding was pretty boring. Pretty much the whole college crew left at that time and went out. Apparently, the bride's friend group did not stay for the party, and the groom's did, and the optics were very lopsided at the party. We all heard from the bride about this, and she was calling us a-holes for leaving. She said that she didn't feel supported and felt like we were spiting her now husband for his sobriety. I told her that she was reading too much into it. We just wanted to go out. She is especially mad at me, as I'm looked at as the ringleader of this outing. I don't think I've done anything wrong. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Ceremony was at 5, reception was at 6. So you were at the reception for 3.5 hours. Okay, that does provide actually a little bit of context from a wedding professional. So this person was clearly voted the a-hole. Let's unpack it, shall we? Okay. 1, dry weddings are divisive. Some people love them. Some people hate them. Some people are like, listen, I can't afford to have alcohol at my wedding, so this is the only option that we have. So I definitely don't shame dry weddings. That's not my intent. I totally get where some people are coming from, whether it's, a decision because someone is working on their sobriety or has been sober for an extended or even a small period of time, or they have family members that are known to imbibe too much, or they just don't simply want to spend that amount of money on an open bar, which reminds me of a video that I did reacting to Chelsea from The Financial Diet when she said, if you don't have an open bar, your wedding's not gonna last. When I got so mad. I'll link the video right here if you want to go check that out, because that was like a spicy take. Whoo! I actually ended up filming with her afterwards. So it's all Gucci. But no, I think a dry wedding is perfectly acceptable. I get where OP is coming from here of like, hey, I'm not near kids. I would love to just like have a drink and just like, I get it. I've got 4 kids, I'm no stranger to needing or wanting alone time, especially with my husband when it feels like all we're talking about is work or bills or kids, and now you finally have a weekend away. I simply just don't see alcohol as the one thing that's going to get me through a weekend away. Now, from a timing perspective, at least here in the States, culturally, a lot of receptions are about 4 hours. So it's not really unheard of to have people leave 3.5 hours into the reception. That totally makes sense. Usually we have about 2.5 to 3 hours of dance floor time where people, naturally start pittering off. So I don't think the timing of the leaving is necessarily an issue. The fact that they wanted it to go till 11 and then wanted to have an after party afterwards, that's a pretty long day for a lot of your guests. I think the couple was expecting a little bit more out of their company than some of them wanted to give, which again, if you go to the same sort of style weddings that I've worked for a majority of my career, most of them have a 4-hour cap on the reception. I know there's gonna be people going off in the comments that say it's different for my culture. That's rad, and I love that for you, but most of ours don't go that long. So a 3.5 hour time span makes a lot of sense. I also think that if you are considering having a dry wedding, you need to have a very good DJ or a very good playlist. And I'm not here necessarily to say whether or not people should be dependent on alcohol or they should expect it at an event, because you will get opinions left and right on this one, okay? What I am saying is people often use that as something to hold on to or something in social situations to make them feel better about dancing. If you are having a dry wedding, I do encourage make sure you have incredible music and low lights. Okay, we don't want the dance floor super well lit. No one is going to dance, or very few people, or a select bold few. You're just not going to see a very packed dance floor. I shouldn't say no one. You're just not going to see a very packed dance floor if it's very well lit. So I would say if you are choosing to not have alcohol, well within your right to do that. Maybe instead invest in making sure you're having a good DJ and or good entertainment. And as the couple, I do believe it's your responsibility to host an event that people enjoy, right? If you're spending all this money for people to be there, then you should make it an event that they enjoy going to. I am not a fan of it's your wedding, you can do whatever you want, screw your guests. Because you paid a lot of money for the guests to be there and eat the food and eat the dessert. So I personally think that it's worth trying to put a little effort into making sure they enjoy the experience. Now, all that being said, the timing of the people leaving, like trying to have an after party afterwards, yeah, that does feel like it would be a pretty long day for the guests at this event. Yeah, personally, I probably would not go to an after party. I'd probably be pretty done at that point. My issue with this is the public passing around of this information. Hey, this thing sucks. Who wants to get some booze? That's where I take issue with it. Because it's one thing if collectively everyone just kind of like leaves and they're like, hey, I'm kind of done. I don't think I want to keep doing it. Yeah, I'm kind of over it. We've already been, like dancing for 2.5 hours, and I'm just really, this event's kind of meh, So I think that's probably the one element that I will stick to on this one that makes OP the a-hole, is passing it around and making it very well known. We are leaving. Who's coming with us? Not we ride at dawn, but we ride at 9:30 p.m. and we're ditching this joint. That's the part where I'm like, you could have just left. You didn't have to make it public, and you definitely didn't have to post it on Reddit because apparently people think you suck. But I definitely think there's some gaps in the event. Some of the elements of the event probably cause the guests to be a little bit bored and not have as much fun. I've seen plenty of dry weddings be poppin'. They absolutely love them because they had great music and the couple was really enjoying themselves and the guests were really enjoying themselves. So if you are doing that, you do need to be intentional about how your event is run. And we do have some videos like that over here on this channel. If you're on a desktop, go to my main channel page and search for it. And I'll talk about different things that you can do, especially for no drink weddings and how to provide some entertainment. I have a whole video on that. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. But that way we're making sure our guests are having a great time and the money we spent on the event is actually well spent because people are enjoying it. And then we don't have people at 9:30 bored. Now, that being said, I'm looking forward to reading the comments. Okay, you're the a-hole. You're going to get a lot of, if you can't have fun without the alcohol, then you have a serious addiction problem and you suck crowd. But I don't agree with that sentiment at all. I think it misses the point entirely. So I want to be clear, that's not why I'm voting you're the a-hole. I agree with this person so far. Yeah, if you can't have fun without alcohol, then you have an addiction problem. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I'm a mom. I get it. I get it. And I don't think that alcohol is necessarily the crutch here, but I get the, having an ideal idea of what the weekend's going to look like. Okay, whatever. I do think that couples should disclose that ahead of time so people can plan for it, since alcohol at weddings is the norm. But you are the a-hole for this. We told people we were going to some bars after and not going to the after party. We left the wedding at 9:30. Bold. Yes. This is what makes you the punk in this situation, because that is the messed up part. You were talking S at her wedding, and then you formed a whole group to leave her party early. That's a bad friend. Skipping her dry after party to go out after would be totally fine. Expected even, but to leave the wedding early and bringing a group with you, yeah, you suck super, super hard. Now just remember, I don't think they necessarily should have had their event go till 11 from a professional perspective. They should have ended at 10, maybe 10:30 at the latest, but really they should have scaled that back. That was a lot of expectations for their guests. She's trying to support her now husband, and she'll be supporting him like that during the whole marriage. And you couldn't even support your friend for 1.5 more hours? Life isn't about only ever doing what you want to do. You're running on a greedy algorithm. Oh, okay. Only choosing what makes you happy in the moment. Others be darned. And that's not what makes a good person. Sometimes we have to sit through long ceremonies for our siblings. Sometimes we have to go to boring art shows for our friends. Sometimes we have to participate in boring parties to celebrate with people we love. Get over it. So I think now painting this OP as a bad person because they made a decision at this event is not fair. Yes, they made a bad choice. Yes, they made a bad decision. Yes, I would definitely not have publicized it, but I get them wanting to leave. It's perfectly reasonable to want to leave after 3.5 hours of the reception. That is not unheard of. They're not rude for wanting to leave at that time frame. Let me just be super clear. Grandparents probably bounced 30, 45 minutes before that anyways. So it's a common time frame for people to leave. The only thing is the rabble rousing and getting everyone to come with you. That's the part that definitely stinks. But the fact that a large group of people left is really indicative to me that the event was probably boring. That there was a lot of elements to this that people were like, it's not necessarily the alcohol, it's just not fun. The speeches went on for too long. The food took forever to come out. The food was the wrong temperature. There's so many elements of this that could make a lot of sense for why people would want to leave. So the fact that such a large group was immediately ready to leave, I'll tell a little anecdotal side story and then we'll get back to the comments on this. There was an event that we did that was a dry wedding. That factor doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot here, but I'm going to tell you all the other reasons why this became a factor. So it's in the dead of summer in Southern California. It was hot for Southern California standards. We start the event late because the couple was off taking photos and they didn't come back until late, so we couldn't start on time. And there were no refreshments available for pre-ceremony. So everyone was basically plastered against the walls and finding any sort of shade that they could. We then later found out that there was more water we could have provided. It was hidden in another room that we didn't even know about. So people are going a really extended period of time without any sort of refreshment, hiding in the shade, fanning themselves with their hands, just waiting for this thing to start. So we've already started the countdown on their attention span and their desire to stay. Secondly, we then went into the cocktail hour, which of course didn't have any cocktails, and started to run out of said water because we didn't have any beforehand, and then I opened it up for the cocktail hour. Remember, some of the drinks were missing and in another room that we didn't know about. So at this point, people are like, I'm thirsty, I'm bored. I'm almost positive there wasn't any music playing during the cocktail hour, but I could be misremembering this. So it's just awkward silence. People are standing out in the heat and there's really nowhere for them to go. There were no umbrellas. It was at a community center, which had provided some shade and overhangs, but really nothing beyond that. So then we invite them into the reception space and people are stampeding into the AC at this point. They're like, please, for the love of all that's holy, I'm going to go dunk my face in the bathroom sink to just provide myself a little iota of relief because I'm so hot. I'm so hot. And it was awkward and quiet out there. And now at least we're going to get food. So we get the food. Everyone sits down. And then speeches start. Toasts, if you will. And there were 11 of them. It was 45 minutes long, you guys. 45 minutes worth of speeches. At one point, and I've talked about this on this channel before, so it's kind of like a famous moment. At one point, there was a table at the wedding that started watching a football game on their phone, and they started quietly, just kind of watching it. And I think about 35 minutes into it, started loudly cheering. I'm just like, hey, anytime a score would happen. And I don't know if it's necessarily a dig or because they were so... I don't know if it's necessarily a dig at the couple or the event to be like, hey, we're not even paying attention to you because this is going on for forever. I don't know. Or they were just so enthralled with this game. I don't know. I don't do sports. Okay. So that's the context of what we have going on here. The speeches finally end. Half the guests get up and walk out. Not all at once, probably over a 15-20 minute time frame. A bunch of them went to get desserts and a bunch of them left. So context here is very, very important. The context of the event is very, very important. This may have something to do with the fact that it was a dry wedding. Maybe. Or maybe not. This probably had more to do with the fact that there was a lot of elements of the event that were out of my control. I couldn't control how many speeches they wanted, even though I suggested to do less. They chose not to. I couldn't control the weather. I couldn't control where the drinks were placed. There were a lot of elements of this that were out of my control, but they were all adding up to be a recipe for disaster. Because once that attention span clock starts ticking down, you will lose your guests a whole lot sooner. That's probably what happened here. We don't know the temperature. We don't know the food. We don't know if there wasn't enough appetizers. We don't know if the music was boring. We don't know a lot of factors that go into creating a really good event. That's why if you're planning a wedding, you need to subscribe to this channel because I'm a professional wedding planner and I will help you make sure that this doesn't happen at your event. That is literally my job. You should sign up for the master plan where you get to be my online client. And I will have live monthly calls with you guys and we could talk through some of this stuff to make sure this doesn't happen at your event. Because it does, especially without professional insight. But I will get off my soapbox and talking about what we do. But you should absolutely look into hiring an online wedding planner. It should probably be me if you're here. But my guess is there was a lot of elements of this going on. Okay, back to the comments. So last person said you were talking S at her wedding, and this person replied, so I hate to be the one to tell you this, but hey, we're going to some bars after the wedding is not talking S. That's telling people your plans. It would be different if they were like, yeah, we're going to leave this boring AF wedding for some bars, but they didn't. All they said is that they were going to some bars after the wedding. I agree. However, the fact that it was so public that it got back to the bride, I agree with this to a certain extent. Yeah. Be like, hey, I don't think we're gonna go to the after party. We might hit up a bar afterwards if you want. Not quite sure what you guys are doing. It like quietly, yes, but this was like it just like spread very quickly. That's where I guess from that perspective, when you're just sharing where you're going, this tells me that this wedding was really boring. Sorry, it does. Yeah, I think my opinion's changing of this OP a little bit. Because we don't know a lot of information about this wedding. I have seen people leave boring weddings. It has nothing to do with alcohol. I've seen boozy weddings lose people. Yeah. I'd like to call you not the a-hole. Had you just left quietly and not talked about it with groups of people, you would have gotten that judgment. Unfortunately, you're the a-hole. You told all the friends that this sucked and you were leaving to go get drunk and became the ringleader for the group of friends to follow. That's not what the person said. They didn't say that this sucked. Yeah, they didn't say that this sucked at all. And they didn't say they were leaving to go get drunk. They said they were leaving to go to some bars. Okay. I get it. Weddings can be boring and drag on. I went to a wedding. Marriage didn't last longer than the wedding. The wedding started at 4 p.m. with very little food provided, and the intermission before the reception, only cucumber wedges with cream cheese. I don't know why. By 10:30, the dinner hadn't started. We ran to a diner and found other wedding guests, a complete surprise, but we all laughed it off. You literally just proved my point. I'm sorry. You just proved my point. We don't know the other elements of this event. I don't think, actually, the more I read this, the more I'm like, OP is not the a-hole here. Now, the phrasing, yeah, maybe they were considered the ringleader, or maybe they're just the first person to say it. Hey, we're going to get out of here because we can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I would like to go get myself a drink or get myself something to eat, get out of this heat, get out of this freezing cold room. There's so many elements with the attention tracker just like on down that you don't know about. And you just proved my point. You went to a wedding where very little food was provided at the intermission, which shows how much you know about weddings. Only cucumber wedges with cream cheese. And dinner wasn't even being served by 10:30 p.m. Like, people start to lose interest at a certain point. So it may not be the alcohol. I think OP should have phrased it a little bit differently. If it is the alcohol, okay, well then, yeah, there's a little bit of a-holeness attached to this because, like, you don't just leave for the alcohol, right? But they hung in there for hours. 3.5 hours of just reception. They'd been there for 4.5 hours. Yeah, they'd been there for what? The ceremony started at 5. Let's say they got there 30 minutes early. They'd been there for what, 4.5, 5 hours? That's a long time. And I don't know if it necessarily has anything to do with the booze. Maybe it's just a poorly done event. I said what I said. You're the a-hole. That's kind of crappy way to treat a friend. Basically, you all abandoned the wedding celebration, and I'm guessing she was looking forward to celebrating her wedding with her friends, hence why you were invited. And it was a reasonable expectation of hers that you actually wanted to celebrate their marriage since you went. They did. They were there for a majority of the reception. I don't think people understand how weddings work. Honestly, you should go to weddings to celebrate and support the marriage of the friends and or family. Drinking should never be a necessity. Even if you were bummed about the alcohol, celebrating and being happy for your friend would take priority over you getting drunk. At no point did OP say they wanted to get drunk. Sorry. Exactly. Weddings are boring. Wedding showers are boring. Baby showers are boring. Graduations are boring, etc., etc. You go to support your friends and family, period. Then you don't smack talk whatever event you are at, nor do you lead a group of people to abandon said event. I think everyone sucks in the comments. They were there for a majority of the event. Arguably, the ceremony is typically like the most boring part. They made it through that. They made it through cocktail hour. They made it through hours of the event. We, again, have no idea how much food they were provided, how many drinks were available, non-alcoholic beverages. We don't know a lot of factors here, and I wish OP would have given us a little bit more context. So they did their job. They did the supporting. They just didn't stay through the end of the event because of a myriad of factors. They didn't smack talk the event that they were at. They didn't lead a group to abandon the event. The other comment that was however many lines up that was like, yeah, we had to go to a diner to eat food because we were so hungry because the event only gave us cucumber wedges with cream cheese. That's the perfect example of what might have happened here. So, unpopular opinion. I have now reformed to saying I don't know. I don't think that the OP was the a-hole. I'm probably gonna get quite a few people that disagree with me down in the comments. I welcome a polite and engaging discourse. Tell me your thoughts on this one specifically. Also, if you're in the throes of planning your wedding, tell me if you're doing a dry wedding or not. Because if you are, you should probably look at my video on how to have entertainment at your wedding and keep people engaged at your wedding if you're having a dry wedding. And also, I recommend it even if you are having a boozy wedding too, because we want to make sure that if you're paying all this money for your guests to be there, that they stay at the event through its entirety. That's why I think it's so important. So many of these elements that come together to create a really beautiful event for you guys and for your guests to enjoy as well. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one. That's all you have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, jump on down there, hit that like button if you love the AITA videos, and subscribe to this channel if you're planning a wedding or if you just want more AITAs, and for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys!